recording in progress.
Oh, that was good, Dave. And you haven't done it for so long.
And Dave is back. Dave is back.
Oh yeah. Cheers, Dave.
Yeah, well, welcome back. Yeah, he's finally stopped acting enough to come and join us with our lowly chat about maybe not so good horror films. So
I'm unemployed. Please include me.
Well, Dave, I'm glad you asked because I just need to know what you think about Poltergeist. Do you know what though? Okay, so we watched Poltergeist this week. And
I say this week, but I watched Poltergeist maybe 2 weeks ago.
I watched it 2 weeks ago as well.
Really well to chat. And this, yeah, I was excited. It was my choice. It's my bad. And I was excited about it because it was one of those ones that people talked about when you were kids and folk maybe watched it sleepovers and I was too scared to watch anything. So I was like, yeah, I'm ready for this.
I remember, again, it doesn't do, because I've seen it a bunch of times, but not for a long time. And this is another one where it's like, I don't remember it being like, I didn't love it, but I didn't remember it being like so terrible. And I think it's that thing that just goes to show that like past Sophie is terrible judgment, just the worst judgment.
But look, it's not past Sophie, and we're not judging past Sophie because it was hugely successful. Like, so of course I went onto the Wikipedia because I couldn't remember the film. But yeah, like it was out in 1982. It's directed by, I was going to say Tobe Hooper, but Toby, I guess. But yeah, it said it was the 8th highest grossing film in 1982.
But that doesn't seem very impressive.
I mean, 8 is still in the top 10, right? Like it's not the worst.
It's behind a film called Porky's.
That's a comedy that I think.
Yeah, I think I've heard that.
I've never seen it, but
Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
What's 48 Hours? I don't know that one.
An Eddie Murphy film.
What else? I want to know what's above it. Keep going.
Okay, so we got E.T., Tootsie,
okay.
An Officer and a Gentleman.
Okay.
Rocky 3.
Ugh. Okay.
Porky's, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and something called 48 Hours.
Yeah.
But it is above The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas and Annie.
No,
so it's better than both of those.
I'm a big fan of that 1980s Annie.
But then I guess it's the 8th highest grossing film, but it made $18 million in 1982. So I guess that is reasonably successful.
Yeah, but did people go because they were excited and then like no one told them? Like everyone went on the first weekend at the box office and it made all its money and then everyone was just like, no, don't.
Well, like it was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, named by the Chicago Film Critics Association as the 20th scariest film ever made. And the scene of the clown doll attack was ranked as number 80 on Bravo's 100 scariest movie moments. Now, I don't know what that is.
Also, I don't know what you thought, but it looked expensive to me. This looked like a special effects extravaganza for 1982. Yeah. Like, it looked like a film where like people would go for the special effects.
Because we got to remember, this film is older than us.
But also that, I feel like, do you know what I think is like when it's the tree. It's when the tree fucking comes to life where I feel like that is like the beginning of the end. Like it's not that it's like super, super strong up until that point. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I just feel like it starts off like well enough that I was like, yeah, Poltergeist. I like Poltergeist, I think. Like I'm glad I'm watching Poltergeist. And then I was like, I don't remember this. And then the rest of it is just like every 10 minutes or so after that, you're just like, what?
Also,
what?
It's so long. And
so
like,
long.
So it's what, 114 minutes runtime. It was written by Steven Spielberg and apparently some other folk, Michael Grays and Mark Victor. So I think from reading the Wikipedia, Steven Spielberg had wanted to direct it, but he wasn't able to because contractually he couldn't, because he was also directing E.T. So
he picked the right one, didn't he?
So he brought in Tobe Hooper, but apparently as well, so Hooper had done work on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But apparently, again,
it might be Tobe.
It might be Tobe. I don't know. Tobe. I don't know. Tobe Hooper.
Tobe.
There's like no accent. I would say
no, there's no accent.
So it might be Tobe.
Monsieur Tobe. There you go. It's a French guy.
But it's an interesting one because it sounds like even Spielberg, when he was writing the film, didn't want it to be the film that ended up being originally, because according to this, he had wanted it to be a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind and had wanted it to be more sci-fi But then they decided they wanted to be more of a ghost story, and then it became Poltergeist. And like you're saying, Sophie, like I think I liked the start of it. I liked the suburban vibe that was going, but I was also laughing because so much could be cut down. Because like, so you start the film with in total suburbia, and these like houses that all look identical, and we've got this little creepy girl. Her dad's fallen asleep. Do you know how many times do we have to hear the whole US national anthem all the way through? I mean, seriously. So we start.
That was weird.
Yeah,
they're
whole
very
thing.
Proud country, Karen. They're a very proud country.
But I thought, do you know what I love about it too? I mean, because I don't love it. I have to start with I don't love it. But what I did like about it was just, of a time when TV channel, like you would end with like the national anthem and your TV scheduling would be finished, and then you'd get the static.
Static, yeah.
And I always, as a kid, was freaked out by TV static, and I'd never seen Poltergeist, but like there's just, I guess maybe just the sound of it.
I can understand that, yeah.
So we start the film with this suburban dad, who we later discover is one of the people that's responsible for building these crappy housing estates where all the houses look the same. And he's fallen asleep. The daughter, the dog's walking about.
The dog is stealing people.
The dog is food.
Literally checking everyone for treats. It's my favorite thing ever. The dog is just like, do you have a bag of, and they all happen to have bags of chips in their beds. Like
they're all gross people.
Yeah,
it's like stop eating crisps in bed. Why is that on the ground? Like the dog shouldn't have so many snacks right now.
What I found frustrating about this film were things like that, like this setup of this dog, right, that goes on for quite some time. This dog won't come out, which makes you think the dog's going to be really integral to the film later on. But no, it's just a badly behaved dog at the start of the film. That's the family dog, and that's just like again another.
Well, you know what? I don't know if it's badly behaved, Karen. People are just leaving a bunch of snacks.
That's true. I mean, you're right.
Some badly behaved people.
Yeah,
behaved people.
Dogs just being opportunistic.
Yeah, the dog's just
So we're following the dog around, and the dog's eating all the snacks that everyone has just like left on themselves as they sleep next to them, like whatever. And then but like I think like the girl in front of the TV with the static,
it's quite iconic.
It's iconic, but I think it's really effective. Like it is a bit, and especially like you put yourself back in the 80s, like that would have been creepy as fuck. Like I get why people would have been.
Yeah. So that did, watching that creeped me out. I don't like scary children, and I was like, why are you stoating about? Are you sleepwalking? What's going on? And why are you immersed with the TV? So that was all, like, I think it was a good start. And I think it's sort of this feeling like she's been sleepwalking and that's just something that she does. And then we have this really long, so that's sort of the setup of the film. And then we get this long panning around opening with the music and the let's look at all of these houses and all the kids doing whatever, like the ice cream van, the kids that are, it was the dude with his beers on his bike, and the kids
forgotten
guys being total assholes with their remote control cars trying to make the guy with the beer and on his like bicycle like crash and then spill the beer everywhere, and then the guy does crash and they're all laughing. Also, I'm gonna say that like I know that things were more robust in the past. The amount of beer that got into those electronics, like those cars weren't driving away, but they did, whatever. But then the guy runs in, I think it just disturbed me. It's like, you're a guest in someone's house and all of the cans of beer are exploding. Yeah. And you just run into his living room and you're just shooting beer all over fabric.
Yeah, and so this
doesn't matter. We just want to drink the beers.
That's the other bit that I just don't understand about this film. Like again, more setup, more bits that needed major editing. But we're now we're still in their family home, watching TV, watching sports. The dudes all together drinking beer. This dude with beer squishing everywhere. But then there's that whole weird bit about
the remote controls where like remote control, like you move your set, no, you move your set. The kids want to watch this, no, we're watching the football, and it's like, why is any of this necessary?
Yeah, do you remember the neighbor's TV works on the same remote, and so they'd end up changing each other's channels, and I was just like,
someone used the buttons on the TV.
Yeah, right. But it's the thing where it's like, if this came back later as like a significant thing, and for some reason, like the haunted static is now in his house, like maybe, but like,
yeah, it's like,
no, it's never, it just never is referred to again. You're like, that's
the only thing it gives you is this feeling that maybe it is the poltergeist is still on the TV, but actually it's the next door neighbor and the remote control. And you're just like, why? Why do we have this? This is just more long nonsense that we don't need. Before again, like the scenes that are really more important at the start are the fact that like this little girl sharing a room with her brother. The brother is scared of that tree, and he's always a bit scared of the tree. They've got a really creepy clown in their room, which you always have a build up of this is going to be terrifying. And why does anyone have this?
Don't make those kinds of toys for children. Children, like adults, don't like that. Don't make faces like that on a toy. It's just the.
But around all that, there's all this other creepy stuff too. So they're getting a pool made up in their yard. And so they've got a bit of a fear because their littlest little girl is sleepwalking, that she might end up in the ground with a pool. But there's also the worker men that are kind of hitting on the 15-year-old daughter, which I find so repulsive.
But also the fact that so the daughter handles herself well, and then the mother kind of laughs it off, and it's
that's all awful.
And Billy from Predator was there.
Yes,
he's one of the lecturers guys. Billy from Predator.
Billy from Predator was there. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then the mom in the house who's just, like trying to keep order and making sandwiches, and sometimes the workers are grabbing sandwiches and all this stuff.
It's so weird,
So it's a really weird setup.
There's just a lot of setup. There's just quite a lot of setup.
And also the little girl, so during all this time, the little girl is also like gone back to convene with the TV again or something, and like a hand has come out, because everyone's always watching TVs everywhere, and there's TVs in every room.
Yeah.
The bit that I did enjoy, I have to say, the initial scenes was the mum and dad's relationship together when they're trying to watch TV in bed and they're smoking a joint, and they just seem quite happy together and quite fun. And then it's like they've got this madhouse with their kids and suddenly a poltergeist. But like, I think in the setup, I quite enjoyed that. But again, probably wasn't necessary. But again, like the kids come in to see their dad, and it's like, I need the joint. Go get him back to bed. He's struggling to sleep because of the scary tree. But yeah, like it all starts off quite innocuous with the poltergeist, because it's the mum and the daughter still in the house with the little TV, and then suddenly it's like furniture and things moving. Really? Was it like she turns her back and then suddenly all the chairs are on the table? So everyone's left for school or for work, whatever. And it's just her and her daughter.
Yeah.
But rather than being scared of it, like I also quite enjoyed this. Like the mum was hilarious and just having a fun time.
I know the best bit where it's like, this is where it starts and this is where it ends. And then she like puts her child as a test subject into the circle. She was like moves across the floor and ends on the other bit. And it's just like, obviously, okay, we see that when she's obviously tested it a few times. So it's like, don't test theories on like children. Just inanimate objects are fine.
So like, I think the husband, he was a bit more bemused by it all, but like kind of going with it. But they just thought this was all a bit of fun. But
then the tree comes to life.
Yeah. So they have a really bad thunderstorm.
Just that fucking tree. It's the worst live tree I've ever seen, you guys.
And so you feel for Robbie, because he is really freaked out by that tree. And then suddenly the tree does come to life during a storm. I mean, there's a lot of trying to calm this kid down various storms, and that nice thing of counting the time difference between the flash of lightning and the rumble of thunder. And like the dad does a really good job the night prior when he's smoking his joint of just trying to keep the sun calm.
It's rare that the relative velocities of light and sound are an important device in a horror film. I enjoyed that was the case.
Yeah, science is a good storyteller, Yeah.
But sadly, the tree does grab Robbie, and he they get into panic stations. But in the meanwhile, while they're trying to save Robbie, is that when the little girl ends up going into the closet?
Yeah, so basically, like I'm pretty sure like the poltergeist magics the tree as a diversion. And then they're all too.
So everyone, of course,
and she's just like there, and then basically just like sucks her into
sucks her and all the furniture into the closet, because it turns out the closet is really important in this house for the poltergeist, and so she's in there. But then
I'd go as far as to say it's a scary closet.
It is a very scary closet. You know,
it might be one of the scariest closets, And
then we find that we've lost the little girl, but you can communicate with her through the TV or something.
Yeah, she lives in some kind of, she's in the house, but she's not in the house. Yeah. But yeah, if you turn on the TV and you talk to the static, sometimes she talks back.
Yeah. And then this is where the dad goes and finds like this wonderful academic group. These supernatural 3 which I always enjoy. You know,
that scene is just so funny for reasons that I can't remember, but I just remember like low key pissing myself through like certain bits of that interaction where it's like, what is all of this? Like, what is happening?
And it's all taking itself quite seriously.
Yeah, I think
for something that usually, like, if this was in horror now, there would be a bit more hamminess to it. But it was like these three shunned researchers kind of in a closet that were kind of like, oh, someone's taking this seriously now. Great. Oh yeah, we'll go and see this. We'll go and deal with this. And then, as is common in these kind of films, like what happens is they're completely unprepared for what they go and see, because actually they've never seen anything quite like this. Like, where they've seen evidence of poltergeists or ghosts or whatever, it's just been like a flicker on a camera image or something, or the odd sound that they've recorded. And suddenly they go to the house and are like, what's the deal here? And then they open the bedroom and everything is flying around in the air. And that's probably where you're like, again, it's the effects haven't aged necessarily well, but like, yeah, you could imagine that kind of thing would be why they're getting nominated for awards for effects. Like, was there not even like a compass or something? Like, there were some jaggy things floating about the air that I feel like the different objects had different amounts of credibility as well. There was some stuff flying around you like, this is a bad effect, but there were some things where I was like, that's not badly done for the time. Like, it's just like, look, a little mini Wizard of Oz like tornado thing happening just in the bedroom with just the bed. And then they're all, and those like professionals, these experts are shocked because they've never seen it, and they close the door. And then there's a lot of it, you've got to keep the TV on. It's the only way the little girl can talk to them. The older brother and sister are not in the house quite so much. I think they may be sent away because this is all a bit scary.
They get sent to the grandparents. I feel like there's discussion they may be sent to grandparents or something.
But then I like, all of this becomes a bit like weird to me, because it's a lot of them, they all stay in the house together. So these three researchers of the paranormal whatever, and then the mum, dad, and we've got the TV on because the little girl could communicate with them. But there's a lot of just sort of waiting overnight to see what might happen.
And I feel like there was the whole bit where they had like the first interaction with like Carol Ann when the experts were there. And then there's like I feel like there's that bit where we first bring up the light. Like, is it a good light? Is it a bad light? Don't move into the light. And then it's this, and then, because I feel like that's the only important part in that bit where we have like the first introduction to like, I can see a light, and it's like, move to the light, and then the woman's like, don't make it like, not the light, don't go near the light,
which is never really explained. Like, it's never really, because one of them was like, go to the light, the other one was the spiritual medium, it turns up later, is like, go to the light. It's not clear what the light is and what its important is, and I never really got a handle on that, and we seem to spend quite a lot of time talking about it. I didn't really
light in Poltergeist,
because so that scene goes on for quite a long time as well, without really adding too much into it, beyond the fact that they have to call in a specialist and they bring in this new spiritual medium. And that's where I have to admit, probably, I think I fell asleep a little bit during that bit. I sort of dozed in and out, because then suddenly there was a new person in the room who apparently is Tangina Barons. And Tangina determines the spirits are lingering in a different sphere of consciousness and are not at rest. They're attracted to Carol Ann's life force. She also detects a dark presence she calls the Beast, who is restraining Carol Ann and manipulating her life force in order to prevent the other spirits from crossing over.
Do you know what my fucking problem with this film is? It commits the cardinal sin of horror and sci-fi, which is that it explains itself way too much.
But also not satisfactorily.
Just show us some stuff and allude to some stuff. And even if you know how it works in your head as the writer or the director, don't tell us everything. Like, keep some of it back so that your primal brain fills in the blanks. And it's fucking scary and intriguing rather than just being logically satisfactory or not.
No, I agree. And I think this is the point where this should all have been really scary, because it's like, there's something to do with this kid's scary closet. It was a very scary closet.
It eats furniture and children. It's the worst.
But there's a nice point also about like the mum is brave as, and she decides that she, like, the only way to get her daughter is like she ties herself to a rope or something they've got to hold on to, and she goes into the closet to go after her daughter. And this is all like, I mean, I have to say, this is all quite boring when it should be high tension, high stakes. And I found it really quite dull. And as I say, probably drifted in and out of sleep during it.
Well, I think one of the problems I had is, like, I don't remember if you remember the Simpsons episode where they do it in 3D. And like, then every time they said anything, all I could see was like the Simpsons piss take line or bit. And I was like, it's been ruined, but like, it's been ruined because it wasn't good. Like, there's a reason they took this thing off. And yeah, so I just kept getting distracted. And it's like the bit with Homer moving to the light and he gets electrocuted and he swears and it's all funny. And I was like, yeah, this is now, I'm just watching a Simpsons gag.
Yes. Yeah.
It was
but she does end up getting her daughter. They end up coming out muddy or something. I'm not really sure what happens there. Covered in ectoplasm, of course. So Diane retrieves Carol Ann and they drop through the ceiling to the living room floor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's that whole test bit where they're throwing things into the closet, and then there's a guy underneath, so they're testing this mechanism. You're right, there's too much like science to explain this thing. There's like, yeah, they explain too much, but they don't explain enough. So it's like, we've got all this like ridiculous testing.
Yeah.
What is no?
And there's also at that point, it's now moved towards the light. We actually want you to go towards the light.
I Googled it, and so there's a website called it's poltergeist3.com, but 3 is like I. So it's a spectral light, and basically it's salvation. It's the equivalent of like the window next to the plane. So it's like a window that allows you to pass through the membrane from like one dimension to the other. Like, that's what the light actually turns out to be, according to this website that I just found on the internet with 0 references or credibility.
Oh, like that's helpful. I didn't know these things.
But maybe they were unsure of the light, and then when that expert woman came in, she's like, "Nah, this light is stellar. Get in there."
And maybe it was like, you can move towards the light if someone's going to come in and fetch you. Yeah. Because there was also, I think, this fear that she'd go into the light and either be got by the beast or she'd be stuck somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, because
there's like constant reference to like something coming to get her, and like
something that should have been scarier to us all, but we were by this point going, this is really long, I'm tired.
I feel like I was like, how many minutes left do we have? I think I did that thing where possibly like every 3 minutes I checked my phone, and I was like, God, this movie is not.
And of course, Dave slowly but surely regretting all of his decisions to rejoin us for this.
Like, I thought I would have left them alone. They would have sorted their shit out.
Yeah, maybe they'd be watching some
like a good movie to come back to. We're just like, Poltergeist, of course, Dave.
Look, it has a reputation for being a good horror. Like, it does. It really does. It was one of these iconic horrors that people talked about.
It's what the people wanted you to have, Dave.
Yeah.
I just think
the people being me.
I think it's probably scarier if you place more credence in ghosts.
Yeah, but then I feel like I've still seen a bunch of ghost movies, and I don't believe in ghosts. And I've seen some ghost movies that have been like well scarier than this. Like, and then it's like, I think the problem is, it's like when you start adding extra dimensions, because I feel, I think you've got all these different laws, right? And you've got as an LORE.
Yeah.
But you like, Poltergeist is not normally linked to like an alternate dimension. These are different things, and you've got your demon, right? Which is like your fallen spirit. So you got your ghost, you got your demon. So demonic possession is not the same as ghost, which is not the same as poltergeist, which is not the same as like parallel dimensions.
They're trying to mix all of that up, because they also even have, in trying to have an explanation for why there's a poltergeist, they've got all the bodies, the souls that haven't been relocated. So, we get to the point where like the mother and the daughter have come out, and they say the house is clean. So this spiritual medium did a very bad job, said the house was clean. But of course, the family all understandably want to move out of this house now. They've had a very traumatic experience. And even though the dad is obviously heavily involved and invested in building these carbon cutout copy houses all over the place, he's like, I don't want to be in this one anymore. I'm going. This is not happening. And then this really weird bit happens where they're getting set up to go to a Holiday Inn or whatever, but he goes to his work. Was he quitting that day? I'm not sure. There was something going on there. But for some reason,
something to do with the story. I can't remember.
We're still left with the mother the little girl and the little boy in the house, and you know, we all know that this is a horror film that's still got a bit to go, and they're going to do a second ending to something that you think is resolved. And then you just get more frustrated because for some reason, even though they have packed up most of their house, all the boxes and trucks, we still have that stupid, scary clown doll that's sitting at the bottom of the bed, and you're just like,
just leave it there.
Like, why is that there? Why is that not packed or binned or anything?
Yeah.
And so the kids are going to bed or have a nap until their dad's back or something. I don't know. Something I didn't really understand. And the older daughter, the teenager, has gone out, and the mother decides she's going to have a bath, and you're all just like, this is all just terrible. This is all absolutely terrible and not going to end well. And of course, it turns out the house isn't clean. And again, the closet is drawing people in, and it's not good. It's not good. And I can't even remember how they got out of it. What does happen? Because she ends up in the pool. Well, the pool mud, and there's all these skeletons that start rising. So it's stormy and raining again, and she ends up outside rather than trying to get her kids from inside. I don't know how she gets forced out. Maybe the tree drags her. Who knows?
I don't remember. I have no recollection whatsoever.
But she's practically drowning in this muddy puddle, and then more and more skulls come up. She manages to crawl back, runs into the house, somehow rescues the children. Not really sure how. Again, don't really care, but she does. There is that horrible moment, I guess, like if you're thinking about the thing they're referring to earlier, where like the clown doll does try and strangle the little boy. That is pretty horrific. That's horrible. If you don't really like dolls or clowns, that's not great. But other than that, it's just a bit like, all right, I thought this film was ended. And then suddenly outside, all of these bodies are popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it turns out there has been some moments earlier on in the film where when the dad is talking to his boss, they had been talking about relocating bodies, relocating a graveyard to build this housing estate. As it turns out, the boss had cut corners, had removed the gravestones, but not the actual graves. So the bodies are still there. So this is the bit, so coming back to what you were talking about earlier, Sophie, that just really angered me, because I don't know if I really needed the reason for there to be a poltergeist being because bodies hadn't been moved.
That would be, I feel like, with my experience, that's a very non-traditional poltergeist. And usually it's like one thing haunting. And it's like, this is like it's like when you have all the movies that you got, your ancient Indian burial ground or like you're building on or whatever, but it's like, the poltergeist is a different thing, like 100%. You're right, Karen, like they shouldn't.
So I don't get it. And like, so ultimately when the mum is saving her kids, the dad and the teenager both arrive back sort of roughly the same time, and then see all this chaos going on. People start coming out their little suburban houses and seeing all this chaos. I have to admit, my favorite bit though is see when the house just collapsed in itself. I did really enjoy that. I really enjoyed when they all get out of the house, they move back.
Yeah.
And the dad's really angry because he discovers that he's been conned by the big boss, that they haven't done what they're supposed to. But then in the poltergeist rage, the house just
like implodes.
I thought that was really cool. I liked that. I did like that. And then the other bit that I quite liked was, so they got in the car, they leave, they go to their Holiday Inn or whatever, but leaving all the neighbors, everyone's still kicking about. And the film's kind of ended by the dad ripping the TV out of the wall in the motel and pushing it out onto the balcony because he's clearly so freaked out by it's a scary TV. The TVs are scary.
It's got TV PTSD.
Yeah. So that was kind of it. And it was not good. And I think it's interesting because I say, like, I look back at Wikipedia as I usually do, but also just to try and get an idea of what was going on, but also what people thought. But yeah, it's considered a classic of the horror genre. It was considered as one of the best films of 1982. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's got an approval rating of 86%, average rating of 7.3 out of 10. Site's consensus reads smartly filmed, tightly scripted, and most importantly, consistently frightening. Poltergeist, a modern horror classic. Yeah, like lots and lots of people like it. I don't really understand. My favorite though, Sophie, I did find one in Wikipedia. They talk about someone gave this, the Gene Siskel gave the film 1.5 stars out of 4, writing that Poltergeist is very good at getting the details of suburban life right. In other words, it sets the stage beautifully, but when it comes time for the terror to begin, the whole thing is very, very silly.
I think it's the silly. I can't do it. You know, as I said, the second that tree comes to life, all the scary bits become like a bit farcical, and you're like, now it's lost its impact because this is funny.
I think it's maybe the special effects. Like, so one of the Academy Awards it was nominated for was special effects.
Yeah.
And I get the impression it was the kind of film that it was like people went to see it for the visual effects. And so without the impact of that, now watching it 40 years later,
you're right, yeah.
You know what I mean? The impact of that, then it maybe loses something in the watch.
Yeah, maybe do you know what the problem is? We haven't watched this movie in the context of its time.
Yeah.
We did it wrong, you guys.
Yeah, we did it wrong. Do you know, it was another one of those films where like I don't love it, probably wouldn't watch it again. Obviously not a recommendation for JP, who probably has seen it already.
I'd say he would have seen it a long time ago, and if we go watch Poltergeist again, he would happily do it. But I think if we say, definitely, our rule of thumb, would we tell JP to watch it, he would be grateful for the recommendation.
And see, I think it's just too long, but it's one of those ones where, again, I thought the acting was good. Like, it didn't have some of the cheesy, you know, like bring in horror actors and it's usually just low budget. Like, I mean, it did seem like a bigger budget film with good actors, with an attempt at a good script somehow. But and some of the characters were likable in it. But the things that it did well, like even the going alongside the Poltergeist and the kitchen scenes and stuff, like I liked some of that, but when things were done well, they were done for too long. And then the bad things were so bad that you were just like, I'm just not scared, and and
then there are like 2 more of this movie,
which I don't want to watch. So, and I think there was a remake of this one too.
So that's
I saw the remake
2015
at the cinema when I was in New Zealand, when I lived in New Zealand, and I wouldn't recommend it. I feel like, you know, we have all of the modern day special effects, and it didn't improve anything about the story or the experience. You don't need. I feel like there was, from memory, like again, like this is obviously like a long time ago, but like I feel like they maybe tried to explain the science or whatever a bit more, and I feel like the bit where like they were actually like, you know, the rope going into, I feel like that was like drawn out and maybe in a positive way where it was kind of bit like there's a bit more content. I don't know, but it's not good. Don't see, like, not waste your life. Don't see it.
I think I've like. I'm glad I watched it because I've been wanting to watch it for a while. I'm glad we did it as part of this because I think, to be honest, or maybe it would have been better without it, I think I might have turned it off if it hadn't been for Film Club. But it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but really boring. Really quite boring.
I didn't enjoy it. I think maybe I should have had about 25 minutes chopped out of it.
Oh, at least. At least. I think that should be like an hour.
I was going to say, like, I feel like all the important bits, hour tops, we could have watched this.
And also, this is one of the longest things we've watched. And look, Sophie, you know, you and I usually chat for ages, and we like, seriously, we could have done this. I mean, probably it's been about half an hour chat, but like, we probably could have cut this down to like 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, we did.
There was a light in the cupboard, done.
We did a really in-depth like thing at the beginning where we looked at all the other movies that were more successful than it in the year that it was made. Like, we spent a good 5-10 minutes on that chat, I reckon. So what did we learn
next? Well, what did we learn? Not to watch this.
Not to watch it. Yeah, what next?
What are we doing next?
I feel like it might be a Dave. I feel like Dave has made a decision because he hasn't been
Dave has no idea.
Dave, tell us all of your horror dreams, but not the dreams that you have that are horrible, more the dreams that you have about what horror movie to watch next.
Yeah. Ken Russell's The Lair of the White Worm. You've got a lot of things on your list.
I do.
Do your list get longer again, Karen?
No, I've genuinely not added anything.
Okay.
So,
I don't know. I need some guidance here. There's just a lot of. I have option paralysis here.
Well, the one that maybe Sophie's already seen it, but Jackson and Lesnar were chatting about one called The Hunt that's on Netflix. Have you seen that yet?
The name rings a bell. Let me have a look.
There's Sarah Gilpin in it.
I think that's the one.
Might be comedy horror.
It might be comedy horror. It might not be a Sophie one then. It's on my list though.
No, I feel like I might. No, I don't think I've seen it, but if it's comedy horror, do we have any other options?
Yeah, we got lots. There's so many options. Too many options.
Actually, do you know, there was another one that I really want to watch, but I just don't know how easy it is to find. But maybe you've seen this too, Sophie. This was I'm just going with suggestions that other people gave me.
And having said that, you know, like I'm happy for a rewatch.
Have you seen Thelma, a 2017 Norwegian supernatural thriller?
That rings a Selma.
Directed by Joachim Trier.
Okay, this looks familiar, but I don't.
Well, this was a recommendation. This was Jackson Lesnar.
Maybe let's watch this one because I just feel like if I like just really quickly reading the synopsis, like it sounds familiar, but I don't think I've seen it. Like maybe I have heard of it and gone like, oh, that might be interesting to watch, but 100% I haven't. I don't.
Okay, sure. And it's good to have a recommendation, so we can. I mean, it means we can go and chat to them about it too. So yeah, cool, great. So Thelma for next time, whatever that may be. Okay, thanks, team.
Yay.